Welcome to episode 4 of Behind and Beyond the Fence. I'm Daryl Townsend, and welcome to this episode. I think you're going to enjoy our conversation with my friend here to the left, Arnel Clark. He's going to be talking about his life behind the fence and also his transition out of prison and into the free world. So before we get started with Arnel, I just want to remind everybody that at the end of every episode of our podcast, there'll be an introduction video that tells you who we are, what our ministry is about. Also, we'll give you contact information if you're in the state of Florida, especially, and you'd like to, schedule a visit or write to us. You'll have the information you need to do that. Also, want to bring you up to date. It's been almost exactly August was 1 year since we started our channel on Pando, and it's been way more successful than I ever imagined it would be. So we've had, as of a year, about 3 million views on Pando, which is extraordinary from my standpoint. If we'd had 1 million views, I'd have been impressed and thought that it was worthwhile. So 3 million views, and we've got now over 50,000 subscribers to our channel. So share the word, continue to tell people about our channel if you like the content. We're, again, just trying to use a combination of Bible teaching and stories of men that we worked with getting out. So I've been doing prison ministry for about 20 years. So over time, we'll meet several men that we worked with and talked to and are still involved or that I still have contact with. Also, I want to remind you and give a shout out to our friends at WVBS, World Video Bible School. They provide most of the content that you'll see on our channel, on our Pando channel. But also, for a lot of you that will be watching this, you have Edovo, the Edovo app on your tablets. And a lot of guys in county jails have them, and they're on a lot more tablets even than Pando. But if you have Edovo on your tablet, WVBS, if you'll search for that, you'll see that now they have uploaded, I think, over 50 Bible correspondence courses per se. In other words, they're Bible courses, mostly on books of the Bible, but also on topics, spiritual topics. And you can take those on there. You'll get the certificate. You'll get everything that you would on a normal Edovo course. So I encourage you to check out WVBS on Edovo for some real good Bible teaching. All right. So Arnel has been out for what, 3.5 years? Arnel?
Yeah, 3.5 years.
3.5 years. And Arnel, I met Arnel at Liberty Correctional, which is out in the Panhandle in Florida, through another inmate. So kind of walk us through a little bit about how we met Arnel and how you became a Christian. And then we'll talk a little bit. I want to talk about your background some because you have a little bit of a unique background, I think, that'll be interesting to a lot of the men.
Yeah, so initially a friend of mine, he's been out too. Dale actually introduced me to you, kind of searching at the time when I was there. He befriended me, started reading Muscle and Shovel. And then I started going to his services, and we did the one-on-one spiritual advisor meetings and stuff like that. So that's how me and you started kind of talking a little bit more.
Yeah, and you were working at Pride, right?
I was working at Pride, yes,
okay.
Sir.
So Pride, if you're not familiar with Florida, it's prison industries, and y'all code license tags, right?
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah. So in the state of Florida, and maybe y'all do other states too, maybe, right?
Yeah. So it's primarily, I believe it's Florida. So it's data entry.
Right.
You put it in license plates, and there's different other things that they also train us with, whether it's scanning documents and stuff to that extent. So
all the toll roads in Florida, yes, if a license tag has to be entered in, then you guys are the ones that do it.
Yeah.
So, all right, go ahead. So you worked at Pride, and so Dale was in the dorm with you, I guess.
Yeah, Dale was in the dorm with me, and he started, teaching me the word, because I grew up in church a little bit, but I wasn't in depth as knowledgeable into the word. Like, it was just going, every Sunday, like we typically do, right?
Right.
But to have somebody that was more knowledgeable than me and sit down and really see it in black and white and understand what it meant to be saved, I think that transition was different. So.
And at that time, you'd been in prison how long, would you say?
At that time, so I did, I want to say 3 years in the county. So 2000, so I want to say about 3 or 4 years. Something like that.
And you had 10-year bid?
So got sentenced 13 years.
13 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I did 11 off of 13.
Okay. All right. So by the time I met you, you were in the last 2 or 3 years
3 years, yes,
of your
sir.
sentence.
Yes, sir.
Right. Right. So you went to prison. Was that your first time in prison?
Yeah, first time in prison. I was 21 when I got arrested. I believe I went to prison about 24 when I got went into prison itself. So.
Okay. So had you been in jail a lot? I mean, some guys that I meet in prison have been in jail a dozen times or whatever.
No, I haven't been to jail. I did have a situation back in early August of 2011, and that was with the mother of my child. And and 6 months later, I got arrested. A similar situation, and that's my first time in prison.
Okay.
But like juvenile, like I didn't go through the juvenile criminal system or nothing like that. So as an adult, I got my first major charges as an adult.
Yeah, and you started out with a bang at 13 years.
Yes, sir.
So you didn't get a slap on the wrist like
sir.
some guys do. Yeah. So you learned the gospel. I think we baptized you at Liberty.
Yes, sir.
Right. And then you continued. I do a service at Liberty once a month. So Arnel and I kept working together there and seeing each other. Then we do these typically what we call spiritual advisor visits, where I go in and we get to meet one-on-one. In the Florida prison system, they call them spiritual advisor visits. And so that's how I got to know Arnel. And then Arnel ended up coming to our transition program after he got released. Now, I want to talk about that some, but let's drop back.
Okay.
So kind of give the background. What do you think are the things in your life that led you to prison? Tell the guys about, what your background was like, where you came from,
Okay.
Those kind of things.
So I grew up Broward County. I'm an immigrant of Haitians, so like
go Haiti.
Haitian. But
see if you see any Creole in his accent.
Yeah.
Listen to.
But anyways, so I was about 7 years old, 7 or 8. Got taken away from my parents. I got a big family. Got 8 of us between my mother and my father. So from early on, like going into the, DCF and group homes and foster home, and
so it started at age 7.
Yeah. So I'm scared. I don't know these people. I don't speak the English language that well. I understand English, but my language was Creole was my first language. So like,
so in your home growing up, y'all were speaking Creole.
Yes, sir.
Right. So you get taken by DCF immediately out of the home. And obviously, or usually placed in an English-speaking home.
And an environment, So went to Children's Home Society, stayed there for a little bit, and then transitioned. A foster parent took me and my sisters in, the 2 younger sisters and an older sister, went into their home for a little bit. And I had a lot of angers, resentment, not understanding the situation at the time. Of course, I was going through counseling and all that, coming from a traumatic situation and not really understanding and knowing how to process my emotion at the time. And I guess I was a little too much for them to handle, so they sent me away, right? And that fueled kind of more distrust for people, right? So because I got attached to them, and I got pulled away from them, so I didn't think they loved me, right? And I went through that process of foster homes and group homes and stuff like that. So it was definitely difficult. But yeah.
So how many different homes were you in? Would you say as you were growing up?
Quite a bit. I don't know the numbers, but I know
more than 3 or 4.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Because I know I traveled from a lot of schools, so there was never a stable part of my life where I was like from 1st grade to 5th grade. I jumped from different schools depending on where I was at. So that was just kind of hard. So it kind of adapted me to where I can like change on a whim, because there was no stability in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. Never to get too comfortable, because every time I made new friends, it was getting plucked away. I couldn't get, so that kind of transitioned into adulthood too. So.
Right. And you talk about, and that's something, you and I have talked about through the years, is just you grew up angry
Yeah,
about that because you didn't know you couldn't fix it, couldn't control it.
right.
And so many things in our lives, especially as men, I think that when we get in those situations, we learn to use anger to express how we're feeling, and it's a way of controlling things, right?
Correct.
Violence and anger are ways we control people and
Correct.
control situations.
Right.
So you kind of took on that, even though it's the wrong way to do it. That's kind of how you took on in your life. So I think you've told me before that a lot of the places you end up having to leave is because you got in a fight or something like that with
Yeah.
some of the people there or some of the
Right.
kids in the home or
Right.
whatever, right?
Oh yeah. Or authority figure, just challenging authority figure because we used to kind of doing things my way, right?
Right, right.
So, but yeah, I'm not in control. Yeah, I want to be in control, but yeah, I'm not in control in certain situations. And going to prison, you definitely learn that you're not in control, right?
Right.
So,
So did that play into your your crime? You had a violent crime.
yeah.
So again, that ability to control somebody or a situation carried through. Did you, by the time you got to prison, obviously
Mhm.
on your charge, did you see that, or were you just like, I don't know why my life's ended up like this? Were you already seeing that
Yeah,
somehow I'm not handling things right or whatever?
yeah. I think I was always seeing that because if it didn't go my way, I get upset because I was so used to being in control of certain situations. So yeah, that was always present in my mind. So.
So when you got to prison, did you fight a lot?
In prison, actually, I didn't fight a lot. I did get into an altercation, um, and that situation kind of got resolved fairly well, where it didn't get too out of hand. But yeah, I kind of stayed to myself and stayed around positive people. So I started making that change where I kind of wanted to do a different, um, my mindset to be different to where when I get out, I can be a new person.
Okay.
So
So you were looking for something
yes,
different
sir.
or
Yes, sir.
whatever. So on your own, were you just reading your Bible a lot or?
No, so I got involved with different programs, Celebrate Recovery, going to the different churches and stuff like that, just kind of seeking self betterment, right? Reading the Bible with, group of guys or doing Bible study with a group of guys, whether it's Dale or John or Levi.
Right.
So yeah, that kind of helped to have people especially in prison environment, to be um, trying to change your mindset because people always look down on you. Oh, so you come to jail, you Bible thumper now, right? So
Yeah.
what's the best place to change, right? Is
Right.
is is when you have rock bottom, right? That's the way I look at it. Um, but yeah, you gonna always have naysayers and stuff like that. But you gotta continue trying to live the right life despite what everything that's going on around you. So
Yeah, that's interesting. So even before you really get into God and seeing that God is that, why do you think I see a lot of guys in prison that really don't have any interest in changing.
hmm
At least they don't show it
hmm
if they do. Why do you think, going just one time, what do you think, what was going through your mind, and what I'm trying to get you to do is help guys to understand that the thought process that has to start working within you before you're ever going to make the actual changes that are going to happen in your life, and it has to start while you're in there, and you can't wait till you get out.
right. I think having that background of faith a little bit kind of helped me a little bit. And then when I got somewhat back into the Bible and really started digging, that really kind of helped me out a little bit. So I had a foundation of that,
Okay.
and having people that been on my journey along the way kind of encouraged me to do the right thing. That kind of helped out a little bit. And I have a son too. When I left, he was 2 years old. Right, he's 16 now, and I want to I want to break that generational curse too. That hey man, I want to be involved in his life. I want him to realize despite what decisions you make, man, you can overcome any obstacle that you may encounter in life. So that was a factor too. So
Right. So was your dad involved? I know you got taken out of the home, but was your dad involved in your life much at all?
no, my father wasn't involved, and even when I got adopted, my adopted parents wasn't involved either. My adopted mother died while I was in prison, and I've reached out to my adopted father trying to reconcile a relationship, and it's just nothing. So it made me feel some type of way about it. But
Right.
you
Right.
know, as a father, I understand, and I try to um, make that effort to be more involved in his life if possible, when I
Right.
can
Doing
be. Right,
everything you can
right.
to
So
do it. So yeah, that lack of male influence
yeah,
is powerful. I think all the guys that we've talked to have talked about that lacking influence
hmm
is a factor in why young men kind of go astray and trying to figure out things their own way.
right.
So okay, so you got in trouble. You end up in prison. You start reading your Bible. Some men challenge you to not just read it, but to start actually living
Living it.
it.
Right.
Do you remember a couple things that really hit you that like, wow, I've got to change that, or that's got to be different in my life if I'm really going to be a Christian? Is there anything that kind of just you can remember, like, yeah, the first time I learned about that, it really hit me.
So it, like you said, it's the thought process is doing things when people ain't looking, right? Because I know, okay, this simple rule, like, okay, taking food out of the chow hall, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
so if you ain't listening to those small things, you ain't gonna do the big things, right? Because all authority is given by God, right? And they give authority to us. So yeah, the small rules I think plays a big factor too. So
Okay. So yeah, that's a lot of guys I think don't think about that. They're like,
right.
I'm not using drugs. I'm not on K2. I'm not smuggling in, cigarettes or cell phones.
Mhm.
So stealing a little food out of the chow hall is no big deal.
Right.
And I see that too, where guys that have that mindset, they carry that with them outside, and they start doing some things out here in the
Right.
free world that aren't going to keep them on the right path, and
Right.
obviously won't be pleasing to God either.
Right.
So okay, so we worked together. You got out. You came to the transition house. So kind of talk about your life then after you got out of prison. Compare what was different or the same, because you have probation. You're still on
Yes,
probation,
sir.
and so kind of talk about that and what happened after you got out and how that's worked out for you.
Yeah. So doing a lot of time, 11 years, and getting out to the free world, a lot changed within that time frame, right? So getting out initially, like there was a lot of, anxiety, of course, right? Expectation what I could be or should be doing, and so I was kind of scared in a sense, right? But to have that support system, I think that played a big role. So initially, when I first got out, I'm like, okay, yeah, I was kind of all over the place, decision making, because you're not used to making those
Mm-hmm.
decisions, right? So you got to do a lot of things. You got to make your own meals. You got to do your laundry. You got to do this, right? So all
Right.
this trying to get accustomed back to it was a little overwhelming a little bit at times, right? And initially, I had, quite a bit of hard time sleeping. I think I spoke to you
Mm-hmm.
initially about that, and then as time progressed, it gets a little bit better. But um, so getting out
And you're
with a
on
back,
probation, so
yeah,
you're anxious about if I step out of line a little bit,
right.
what's going
I
to
don't want to go
happen?
back, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
so
For
I'm trying
sure.
to do everything, and what they want me to do, right? So initially, I get out, read all the stipulation. Of course, I got to follow all these stipulations, right? Um, so getting into where I go looking for a job initially with your background, you're gonna always get some setbacks, right? So unfortunately, I was blessed, and I got, I believe, the first or second job we went to, ended up getting hired at that
Mm-hmm.
that job.
Steel company.
Yeah, steel company, steel fabrication company, and then stayed there for about 3 years. And along the way, I kind of got promoted, different position. Whether I was a shop clerk and I became a foreman, where I kind of ran a small crew. So, um, but the hard work from being in Pride and working those long hours also helped too, right? With the
Right.
work ethic and all that. Um, and then from there, I decided to transition and go
Yeah,
to.
let me interrupt you
Okay.
because I remember, obviously during that time, you wanted to grow more.
Yes.
And this was a company that really wasn't promoting that, wasn't
Yes.
promoting your self development stuff, because you had taken a couple college courses
Yes,
after
sir.
you got out
Yes, sir.
online. So, I mean, Arnell's a pretty motivated guy as far as wanting to try things, but he worked at this company for 3 years
Yeah.
and really didn't feel like he was going anywhere.
Mhm.
So then it's interesting what you did at the end of that now. So pick up there.
Yeah, so I decided to get my CDL because I'm seeing all these trucks coming in, and I'm like, okay, well, I want to get my CDL. I want to drive, you know. And
Now, look, half of you guys in prison want to get a CDL. So I want y'all to pay attention to all this because I talk to guys about this all the time because everybody in prison thinks CDL is the ticket to success in the free world. So, yeah, go ahead.
all right, so I'll go through the process of getting the CDL. Initially, they told me I couldn't get it. You know, of course, there are going to be some barriers or setbacks that, oh, you can't do it because your violent charges. And, you know, I just kept going. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to accept no. So I went through the process, end up, you know, going through the courses of getting the CDL.
Now, did you have to pay for that?
I didn't pay for it. I went actually to vocational rehab that actually paid for my CDL, and there's criteria you got to meet.
Right.
Based
And that's
off
through
of that.
WorkSource, right?
So no, so you got career source, and then you
Career
got
Source.
vocational rehab, which
Okay.
is two different entities.
But they're operated by the state of Florida.
They're operated by the state
Right.
of Florida.
Okay.
So I went through them, and I was able to get the funding for that and go to school.
And that was what, an 8-week course?
A month. It was initially a month course.
Oh, 4 weeks.
Yeah, initially
Okay.
a month. So it's a fast, accelerated
Right.
class.
And you went basically all day.
Yeah, went all day pretty much. So I wasn't working for that period of time. So I had to resign from my job and solely rely on the reserve that I had and that I saved up. And, you know, good thing you teach about, you know, saving your money, the budgeting and all that, because that all played a factor, right? Something to fall back on, right? Not to just spending my money and not having some type of reserve, whether I'm putting it for light rent, allowance, you know, spending for gas. So all that, I'm somewhat good
Probation.
with money, right? Probation. So having that in place kind of helped me that period of time to where, okay, I know I still got to do my responsibilities, right? Just because I'm not working, I still got to pay rent. I still got to,
Right.
you know, so
Yeah. And I think that's a credit to you because you had that goal.
Mhm.
And so for 3.5 years or whatever amount of time you started thinking about it, you managed your money well so that you could have the opportunity to do the CDL school.
Right.
Because at that point you were self-sufficient.
Mhm.
Although you were still, you know, living in one of the houses, you still were paying your bills and paying your own way. So I just encourage guys to think about that. How you spend your money when you get out opens up doors or closes doors in the near future as far as you being able to take another step in growing in your career or whatever it is. So basically, Arnel had saved up enough money for 4 weeks. So it ended up being longer than that.
Right.
Probably how long were you
I
out
did an additional a month, right?
Yeah, so 2 months.
2 months, right?
So that means he had saved up enough money at a job he wasn't making, you know, $30, $35 an hour. You were probably making around 20, right?
20, yeah.
$20 an hour.
Mhm.
Save up enough money where he could support himself fully for 2 months while he did the CDL thing, and then obviously started looking for a job.
Yeah.
So that's a credit to you. I'm glad you brought that up because how you handle your money. So many guys, I get out and we sit down and do budgets and talk about, you know, Dave Ramsey's program, Financial Peace, but most guys struggle in handling their money. They all have goals, but what happens is the way you spend your money every week a lot of times doesn't match up to the goal you say you have.
Right.
You weren't like that. You had a goal, and your spending every week had to match that goal so you'd have enough money to do that.
Correct. Yeah.
So you get through, you graduate from CDL school,
Graduated
barely.
from the CDL. Yeah,
That was a close one.
Yeah, the parallel parking. Yeah, it was tough. Like again. Now this is what I'm gonna say. I didn't have my driver license when I first got out.
I forgot that. That's right.
So
we had to get your driver's license.
So I get my driver license in maybe a month, short period of time. So I got out in April of 22, and then I ended up getting it in May or June because I failed the first time. So right,
because I remember somebody, Dale maybe was taking you out in the parking lot at Walmart practicing parking.
Yeah,
and stuff
absolutely,
like that.
Absolutely. So like I didn't have that. My parents didn't teach me how to drive or nothing like that. It's through friends and the mother of my child end up had a little bit of experience to it, right? So they'll kind of help me out a little bit. I believe
Mm-hmm.
me and you went out, and within that short period of time, I ended up getting my license, right? And shortly after that, or 3 years later, I wanted to get the CDL. So I don't have a lot of experience driving, right? So when I get the CDL, it's a new experience, but I'm like, I can do it. My mindset, I can do all things through Christ, right?
Amen. That's
So,
right.
so that was my mindset. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this, right? So I go through the process, didn't do it the first time, didn't accomplish it the first time. Went back the second time and I accomplished it, right? Um,
I remember you had trouble with that
yeah,
stick shift.
yeah, I did, yeah. But yeah, I got it done. So I graduate and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to find work, and that was a challenge.
Yeah, part of that's because most of the jobs that just immediately are offered to you when you get through a CDL school are over the road.
Over the road, and
Right.
because of my restriction, can't go over the
He
road.
couldn't do that.
Right.
And the counsel that we all gave him is
Mhm.
that's not a good life for you.
Right.
You go over the road, yeah, you can make money and you can get a job, but you're disconnected from everybody.
Correct.
You know, you might be gone a week, 10 days at a time. How are you going to be worshiping with the church that you've established the relationships with, the friendships?
Mhm.
So I just as a general rule of counsel, and I know most of y'all that watch this aren't going to listen to me, but that going over the road is just not a good deal. It's very hard on you to maintain relationships and maintain your service to God and to others while you're doing that. I'm not saying it's a sin if you go over the road. I'm just saying for most guys getting out of prison, it's not a good thing to do. And it's not good for your sobriety. It's not good for your growth as you get out. So you were committed to that, and being on probation helped that because they didn't want you to go over the road either.
Right.
So you started looking for something that's more local.
Right. And same thing I was kind of running into the experience and not having the experience, my background. So that it didn't work out.
And I mean, you looked for a lot,
Yeah, for a long time,
a lot of places too.
yeah.
I'll say that you didn't just
So
sit home and not do anything.
So I was just beating my feet, and it just got to a point where, hey, I can't, it's not the path for me. Yeah, I got to go to work. End up getting a job temporarily at another steel company, and same thing that I was doing before, and then another job came through. So when I wasn't looking for work, when I was trying to find work, couldn't find work, ended up getting work. Another employer called me, and that's where I started working for that trucking part company. But they didn't do CDL, but I was able to drive locally.
Right?
Yeah, just doing deliveries, right? And another opportunity came up. Worked there for like maybe a month or two or something like that, and then another opportunity came up to where I can learn something. And I know you were telling me a while back about getting into something that you can learn from
A trade,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to do the electrical work kind of thing. So I'm in the process of that right now, and
yeah. So you're working for a big electrical contractor.
Yep.
With the opportunity to enter into an apprenticeship program,
yes, sir.
and which would in 4 years allow you to be a journeyman electrician, and I think at that time make $35 an hour,
yes,
something
sir.
like that.
Yes, sir.
So what's interesting is you've never had construction experience or anything.
Nope.
So it's funny because Arnel will always say, "Man, I wish I'd have started this when I first got out."
Yep.
Because you've been out 3.5 years now and you're kind of starting over.
Yep.
But I think what that takes is some humility to say, hey, and it's not that you made any wrong choices. It's just that sometimes you can't always know the best choice to make.
Right.
And you can either be stubborn and stick with it and say, well, I'm not going to admit I was wrong or it didn't work out.
Right.
But you've been able to say, no, that was a bad choice. It didn't work out the way I want. I may never use that CDL. I'm going to do something now that puts me on the right track.
Yeah.
And again, because you've been good with your money, you're able to do those kind of things and not like, I got to make more money or I'm
Right.
not going to be able to pay my bills or
Right.
anything like that.
Right.
So how do you like the electrical?
Man, it's a lot of work right now.
Yeah,
I'm not.
he was pouring concrete at 1:00 in the morning this week already doing that.
Yeah, but I'm definitely learning a lot. Like it just because I love how everything's coming together. So we're doing new constructions right now. So just how the foundation, different trades, kind of communicate with each other. So it's interesting, right? So
Yeah,
I
that's
like it.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. So hopefully January, I think,
January. Yeah.
hopefully will be the earliest you'd be able to start the apprenticeship
Yes, sir.
program and start that. All right. So that's kind of how the physical parts of your life went. And so those are just some of the realities that you have. Again, depending on your charges, depending on a lot of things, employment's available. It's just you might have to shift as to what you can do or can't do.
Right.
And not get mad that, well, it's not fair. They won't hire me because of about my charges or whatever. It just adapt and say, but I can work over here. I'm just going to pursue that and do that. Tell me kind of about spiritually how it was though, since so you become a Christian in prison, you got that momentum getting out, and then what was it like getting out compared to what you thought it would be like living as a Christian and those kind of things? And talk a little bit too about after you do that, talk a little bit about your relationships. You've been in a serious relationship with a woman since you've been out. So talk about that.
So say that again initially.
Yeah, so talk about your spiritual growth. Kind of how was that as you got out?
So when I got out, I was surrounded by like real positive men that was spiritually there before I was. So had a roommate that Robert, yeah. Is his name Robert?
Yeah.
Yeah, Robert. So he kind of showed me the church, introduced me to a lot of people. So we do a lot of Bible studies to where men kind of congregate together in Mondays, Wednesdays. Monday, Wednesdays, and Tuesdays too.
Right.
Because we was doing the Chosen, watching the series and then talking about that. But it's been a struggle here and there, right? So like when you're in there, you don't have the temptations of women. But when you get out here, yeah, it's
real.
It's real out here, man. It's real out here the way they dress, So it's the temptation definitely been there. To things you look at, whether it's on the internet or whether it's doing that double staring at women, because your mind as men, naturally we kind of attracted to things that more flesh, but yeah.
So that was hard.
Yes, sir.
What else? Did you feel uncomfortable at the church at first? Was it hard to kind of get used to that?
At first, like, well, they don't know me, I don't know them, right? So at first, initially, in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, these people might not like me, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, it was just very welcoming. Like everybody came to greet me, introduce themselves, like, and it was like genuine. Like I'm not gonna say like everybody, but like for the most part, like I had like a good experience with the people that was there. Whether Noah and Judy, like they was always kind of involved with the guys. So like I definitely appreciate the welcoming initially. So, and I'm a little bit reserved at times, so I kind of stand back, kind of watch my scenario. But over the years, I've been kind of trying to get myself out there to be more extrovert, kind of interact with more people. But so yeah.
Yeah. So and I'll kind of help you along here. What I think I saw you do is when there were activities at the church or things like that, and you could do it because of probation, you participated in those things. Maybe you would have rather stayed home because that was your comfort level, but you went to. We do this thing at the congregation, these family Bible studies were small group Bible studies in people's homes, and you participate in that. Right. You showed up. So early on in the program, you had to do certain things, but you've been very faithful to attend Bible studies and things like that since you've been out of the program and those kind of things. Is that important, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think when you disconnect with people, I think sometimes and I've seen it with guys already, right? So like when you disconnect and you don't stay connected, I think you tend to veer off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to get to that point to where it's either, and that goes back to work too, right? I've seen through example, right, where people work so much, and then their spirituality kind of dies off, right? And I'm not gonna say no names, but just seeing that, so I'm like, man, I don't want to get to that point. So I want to always stay connected, in a sense, to the church and to people that's more on spiritual, because maybe they may see something and they may budge my tail and, hey man, everything all right? So
Right.
so that's why I want to stay connected. Yeah.
And there's been, you've had jobs and
Mm-hmm.
all that. We've talked about that, but like you've mentioned your son, and you were hoping to get right back in his
Mm-hmm.
life, and
Mm-hmm.
that you still haven't been able to be connected with him.
Right.
So how have you handled that frustration? And I mean, that's been a hard thing for you.
Yeah. I've talked to you about it. I've talked to a couple of guys, Robert, and guys that have kids, just to
Mhm.
kind of get a sense, because it gets to me some days more than others, right? But yeah, I'm just trying to make the best of it, right?
Right.
But yeah.
So how do you handle that though when you're really frustrated about that? That's one of those control things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've had anger problems.
Yeah.
How do you handle it differently now than when you used to just get mad and fly off the handle? And
About with my son,
yeah, about just the frustration of how things haven't worked out the way you wanted to.
I mean, I gotta keep praying and hoping that things will work out. I mean, that's the best I can do, right? I'm not in control of the situation. Over the years, I've realized there's nothing I can really do. So.
But I've seen guys though, Arnel, and you know this, that although they're not in control, they try to take control.
Okay.
You could have driven down to Miami and
Yeah.
said, I'm going to see my son. I don't care what they say. And I've seen guys do stupid things like that because they're just refusing to say no. Now, that's not wise, right? We know that. That's not the kind of thing that you should do, but that pops in people's heads.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's popped in your head before too. I don't know.
I mean, because it's important to stay out here, right? It's important to stay connected, right? So if I make a irrational decision, I mean, that's gonna set me back many years, right? So there's no point of me being impulsive and knowing that I'm not in control to do something that costs me more headache and then kind of reset my life back over.
Right.
So I keep that into perspective, and I feel like in due time, like, we'll get reconnected, right? With the grace of God, hopefully. I don't know when that is, right?
Right.
But I'm hoping and I'm hopeful that will happen.
So I think you've grown in that area, right?
Yeah.
So you've learned patience. You learned to trust God, that if you can't do it His way, the right way, then you're just going to have to delay getting what you want and not forcing on anybody what you want, what you think you deserve to have.
Right.
But since you've been out, you've seen a lot of men that made those impulsive, bad decisions about a woman or about seeing their kids or whatever it is. And so that impulsivity that says, I want to be in his life right now, with a lot of men, keeps you from being in their life for the next 20 years or whatever. So yeah, maybe right now you're not going to be in his life, but you have the potential to be in his life the rest of his life.
Right.
He's going to be 18 in a couple of years. But if you do something stupid, violate your probation or get your life back or just give up. So you can just give up and go back to that life you were living. Then you may not see him or be around at all.
Right.
So having the patience, and I mean, you're really calm and you say it like that, but I know inside you, it wasn't that easy. It's hard.
Right.
And I think these guys need to see that, but it works. For 3.5 years, you've done that, and you're still on track to accomplish that still one day, although you haven't gotten it yet.
Yeah, but I think it also helped from speaking with guys too, fathers that's not disconnected from their kid, knowing that, okay, they haven't talked to their kid too, and them sharing their story, and like, man, I just got in contact after 12 years, right? And
you saw their patience.
Right. You see the patience. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm hopeful that can happen to me too, right? So that's why, like, okay, that's why it's good to talk to men that's kind of been in that same situation, that can kind of relate, to give you kind of that
Yeah,
push and
amen.
that motivation that, hey man, just be patient, man, trust God. So
Right.
that helped out a little bit. That's why I reached out to certain men that I felt like had that situation like I did. So
And hopefully you're that example for the guys that are watching this too.
yeah,
That's thing. You draw on others' example, and then you
yeah,
become the example that other people draw on.
right,
I think that's what Christ would have us to be. That's why
right.
we have brothers in Christ. That's
Mm-hmm.
where we're connected in local church to
Mm-hmm.
have those kind of relationships.
Yes, sir.
So I guess that's what I'm hoping these guys will see, that doing it the patient way, doing it the way that you don't get the results right now, but in the long term you've shown that patience, whether it's in your vocation, whether it's in the situation with your son,
Mm-hmm.
what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're reaping the rewards
Mm-hmm.
of that.
Mm-hmm.
You still have a good life. You're moving forward. It's just not at the pace
That I
that you'd
wanted.
like,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that any of us would want.
yeah.
All right. So talk now about, so in our program, there's no involvement with a female the first year.
You're right.
Okay. You followed the rules on that. So
Mhm.
talk about then, after you started now saying, I'd like to, be in a relationship with a woman, how that all transpired and
Transpired.
the good and the bad of that. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I will say initially, like I think that's important that you said the 1 year. I think guys getting now that want to get in a relationship, you get distracted. So I think that year to get yourself together, I think is important. But after that year, maybe you want to pursue. But yeah, the distraction is definitely there if you get out early, because then you're trying to do this and that, and
Right.
especially if you have past trauma, the stuff that you haven't dealt with and stuff like that. That kind of creates a whole situation.
Yeah. You
But
immediately carry that into
right,
the relationship
right.
with
So
you.
just focus on you when you get out. That's what I would tell any men that want to get out. Don't pursue no relationship. Um, so when I did decide to pursue a relationship, initially it was with a chick that she was a Christian, but um, it didn't work out after 3 months.
Yeah.
3 months. It didn't work out after 3 months.
And you just met her randomly.
Yeah, yeah. So, but she did come to the church, but she just wasn't. She didn't want to do the Bible study, and then like later on, she told me she felt like she was forced. I'm like, I don't want you to feel like you forced into something. It's either you want to be learn about God or you don't. So if we're not evenly yoked, I don't think that it's gonna work. I'm not saying that I wouldn't date a female that not a Christian that's willing to seek that. But yeah, that didn't work. Then I ended up meeting a
So that said that you have to have spiritual goals in a
yeah,
relationship.
absolutely.
The physical part of the relationship, the beauty of the woman,
Yeah.
or just being the loneliness,
Yeah.
even if you're sexually pure,
Mhm.
is if you don't put the spirituality as the front thing in the relationship, though,
Mhm.
you will continue in a relationship that won't be good for you spiritually,
Right.
but you'll do it just because you're so lonely and
Right.
you want to be with a woman.
Right.
Right. So I think that showed a lot of growth and maturity that
Yeah.
you were able to do that.
Yeah. So that didn't work out. I'm not saying she's a bad person or
Right.
anything like that. It just wasn't on the same page. And then I got into another serious relationship. I want to say 8 months. 8 months, and yeah, that was good at first.
And she was
she was a Christian.
was a
Actually,
Christian,
yeah,
and a very
that
dedicated
dedicated
Christian.
one. Yeah, and we started Bible school, and I'm like, man, okay, she coming. I don't gotta force her. She want to come. She want to do Bible study. So that was different, right? That was different for instead of me, oh, yeah, you want to come, and then you give me excuses not to come, right? But she actually wanted to come to the Bible study. We did Bible study together and stuff like that. So, and unfortunately, things didn't
Yeah.
work out between us, right? But
But
this was a healthier relationship than
Yeah.
I was used to, right? The old me would probably be more toxic, but and I reached out to you when it happened, right? Because I was really into it, right? And yeah, so
And I think the neat thing about that relationship is another Christian at the church
Mhm.
recommended you to her.
yeah.
Which that's always the best. But that
Yeah.
said something about what they were seeing in your life,
Mhm.
that they were comfortable to recommend you.
Yeah.
So y'all dated. Tell us about, if you don't mind, though, some of the rules in the relationship, because I think this is really interesting. And if more men followed these kind of rules, you know what I'm talking about? I'm kind of leading you.
No.
But as far as where you could go meet her and stuff like that. So she's single. She's got her own
Oh
place
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
live.
yeah.
You got your own place you're living. What
Yeah,
was
yeah,
y'all's deal on
yeah.
that?
I don't want to go to her house because that's going to create a area of temptation, right? Being in a local area where everybody is, where we're not alone together per se, right? Because things can happen. I don't care how much
Absolutely.
Christian you are, that temptation, and then it leads to sin, right? So
Right. So you never went to her apartment
no,
and
I
were
never,
alone with her.
no,
Yeah. Now, I just think some of you are going to say that's weird.
right,
And again, it's not a rule.
hmm,
It's y'all
right.
impose that
That
rule in
rule,
your
yeah,
relationship
right,
because you wanted to be pure and holy before God. And you wanted the
right,
relationship to be that way.
right.
So again, it's not saying that you can never be alone with a woman,
Hmm,
but it's the reality of we're two adults.
hmm,
There's going to be an attraction
hmm,
there. And I'm not going to be so arrogant to think that I'm not going to be attracted. I'm strong enough. I can be alone with her in the apartment
hmm,
and nothing's going to, it's foolish.
hmm,
And so I think that shows a lot of maturity that on your own, you say, we need to establish some boundaries in the relationship. They're
right,
going to protect the relationship
right.
because early on in the relationship, it looked like this was going to be a long lasting relationship.
Hmm,
It turned out to be, what if sexual activity, y'all begin to have sex together, how
hmm,
that would have changed the relationship.
hmm,
And then a few months later, y'all are broke up.
hmm,
And now, so y'all both sinned. You've had sex with another person that
hmm,
you end up not in a committed relationship. You're not going to be married to.
right.
And that changes the dynamic then
Of the
as you go
relationship,
forward.
right.
Yeah. So I just think that was when you had told me about that one time, I just was super impressed by
Yeah,
that.
yeah. She. I think she came up with the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you
So
didn't I ain't gonna be with no
yeah,
woman that
yeah, yeah.
can't be
I
alone
mean,
with her at her
that
house.
was kind of that was good because that showed, okay, yeah, yeah, we need to make
Have
sure
these
we don't, yeah,
boundaries
boundaries, right? Because that's looking back, like different relationships, like before I went in prison, right? It's
before you
those,
were a Christian.
yeah, before I was a Christian, those boundaries wasn't really set, right?
Right.
So moving forward now, like I have my boundaries or different things that I don't want to allow in a relationship, whether it's disrespect or whether it's being toxic and stuff like that, because that's not really love, right?
Amen.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so just kind of establishing those, and when that behavior is exhibited, you gotta reinforce, hey, we're not gonna do this, so
Yeah.
it
And
just
you got to really, that's why dating somebody that has the same spiritual
mhm,
values. So you're both pulling, but if you have those and the other person's
mhm,
like, well, I'd have sex with you if you'd
mhm,
ask me,
mhm,
then it's almost impossible to maintain purity
mhm,
in those cases. So if
mhm,
you're going to date somebody that's not a Christian, you really got to, because it's all going to be you that's establishing
right,
those. Hopefully
right,
you can bring the other person to
right,
understand that, but
right.
most people you're going to date in the world are not going to have those
That's
standards. And
right.
I'll say most people you date that call themselves Christians
Mhm,
are not going to have those standards
mhm,
either.
right,
So as you get out of prison and you eventually start in those kind of relationships, you establishing those boundaries and your purity is really the only way you're going to be successful in that area.
right.
Because most men that get out end up failing because of a female relationship.
Yeah,
You've seen
yeah,
it
yeah. I
over
seen
the
it. Yeah,
years. It's just
yeah,
not everyone, but
yeah.
80% of them.
Right,
And it's because when you're desperate to be in a relationship, you'll pick the first thing that comes around and you'll justify it. And then it soon becomes toxic, like you said,
right.
or drugs are introduced or alcohol or
Mhm,
whatever, and it destroys the person and the relationship.
right.
So I think that's why you've been successful. So that relationship didn't work out, and you haven't been in another serious relationship
Not a
since
serious.
then.
Nah, I've talked to different female, but not
Right.
no serious relationship. No.
So, I think that's admirable that 3.5 years. And to be honest with you, the guys that I see that get in good relationships, it's usually a few years
Hmm,
because they need the time, like you said, to grow
hmm.
so that they're not bringing their bad
Baggage.
thinking and their past into the relationship.
Right.
And it takes a while to meet the right kind of person.
Hmm,
I'm not going to let my daughter date some guy that just got out of prison.
hmm.
I ask guys in prison that all the time. Would you let your daughter go out with some of the guys in the dorm with you? Shoot, no, I wouldn't let them do that. But you expect them to date you. So there needs to be some time there before a woman who's not desperate or doesn't have her own problems, toxicity, to see some things in you for you to show that you've changed, that you're a different man now.
Right.
And man, if that's one thing I could get guys to understand, is that God is wise, and in God's prohibitions all over the scriptures and Thessalonians and Galatians warning us about sexual immorality, it's for our own well-being, and it's for good relationships, and it's for healthy relationships, and it's best for children, and it's best for women.
Right.
And if we could trust God on that, we'd all do a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
So you've done a great
and
job with that.
Another note too, like that communicating is key too, right? Because I'm not going to say I've had a great past with communicating, but being intentional about communicating. And, I've learned from, the past relationship, okay, well, I could have done this better, right? Just moving forward. So it's just that communication too, because it requires work, and it's hard.
Yeah,
it's
it
hard.
is.
It's not, so.
I mean, women are different.
Yeah.
That's what we love about them. That's what we hate about them.
Yeah.
So we just Peter said that husbands live with your wives in an understanding way.
Yeah.
It's our responsibility to step into that world and to try to gain better understanding and communications.
Yeah, and the family Bible study where we did the study on that gave me a lot of perspective too.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. What else do you want to? Anything you want to say to the guys out there? You can give shout out to anybody.
Give shout out to anybody.
To your boys at
shout
Liberty.
Out to the boys in blue, men and women. You can live a successful life. Shout out Levi, Vern at Liberty. I mean, it's not gonna say it's easy, but you're gonna have your struggles out here. So just stay committed to God, and have a good support system around you, and you can make it. So
amen. That made me think real quick before we end. You've done a really good job. It's another area you've done such a good job in keeping in communication with guys that are still behind the fence.
Yeah, because I understand. Like I've felt that way, where I wanted that connection with other people, and people told me, "Yeah, I'll go write you." I didn't promise anybody anything, but like my action, I'm like, I'm just gonna write you because I'm a person where I'm like, you could tell me anything all day, but like your actions gonna tell me where you at, right? So like that's just the way I feel about it, and I've met a lot of good men in there that some have some life sentence, and I feel for you guys, and I always think about them. But yeah, so
your policy's kind of been what if they write you, you'll write them
I'll
back,
try to write
right?
them, and I keep money on the phone if I can, and you can call me, but you gotta. The exchange of information got to be there too, So I make it out of my business schedule to write back. You got to try to write me back too, right?
So it's amazing though how guys sometimes in there won't
write back.
Write back.
I'm like, you got money on the phone. Pick up the phone.
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, but I just think that's an admirable quality, because most men tell guys before they leave, "Oh man, I'm going to look out for you. I'm going to write you.
Yeah.
I'm going to do whatever." And it's very rare that men follow through with that. And some will follow through the first few weeks or even a month or two, mainly just to show off how good they're doing, I think, a lot of times. But to keep that, you've been out 3.5 years, and I know there are guys that you've communicated with. And the cool thing is some of those guys have gotten out now and, are friends of yours and worship with us and stuff like that. And they'll speak to how you encouraged them while they were still in there.
Oh, okay, cool.
So you're a good example for that. So, yeah. So if 500 guys write to me and say, tell Arnel to reach out to me, you'll do it?
That's a lot. I'll try my best.
Okay. All right. Thanks for sitting in with us on this episode, and look forward to seeing you on our next one. Hi, my name is Daryl Townsend with Off the Chain Ministries. If you're watching this and you found our Pano channel, congratulations. Videos on our channel will provide you with Bible-based content. We simply want to preach and teach the Word of God in its purity. We're all members of the Lord's church, the church that He established and that He died for. Many of our videos are provided by the good brothers at World Video Bible School, but some of them, like the one you just watched, are created by us and deal specifically with issues in prison and after release. All of our content is designed for one thing, and that's to glorify God. We don't represent any denomination. We simply are Christians that serve in His kingdom and are part of His church. We're based in Florida and do volunteer prison ministry all over the state with a greater presence in North and Central Florida. So, would you like to study the Bible with someone? Are you interested in knowing more about God and His good news of salvation? Do you want to know more of how you can faithfully serve Him behind the fence and after you get out of prison? Then write to us at P.O. Box 588, Middleburg, Florida, 32050. We'll do our best to reach out to you. If you're in Florida and would like a spiritual advisor visit, then we can arrange for one of our volunteers to follow up with you. You simply need to put in a request to the chaplain at the facility that you're located. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our Pando channel so you won't miss any of our content. Remember, you can't be saved by clicking a button.